2, 3, 4.
Sometimes we need to slow it down. Take a look around and breathe. 'Cause these times go by so very fast. Moments never last. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Quiet, be still, don't shout. Love is what it's all about. Breathe. Sometimes when you feel you've had enough, living is just too tough. Just breathe. 'Cause you'll regret when these days are past. Your friend just seen your last. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Quiet, be still, don't shout. Love is what it's all about. Just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Love is what it's all about. Be quiet, be still, don't shout. Just breathe. Just love. Just love. Just love.
Hi, I'm Kip Baldwin. Welcome to Just Love. Before I get going tonight, I thought about how I want to start the show off, and I think every Wednesday, before we get into who the guest is, what the show is going to be about, I want to take a moment, look around, feel in your heart all the things that we should be thankful for. And even if you're thinking, I just don't have anything to be thankful for, well, think about that very thought. You're alive to be aware to have that thought. You're having this infinite experience. Why not choose to have it in love? You're the only one stopping yourself from being thankful. You're alive. Breathe. Look around you. Think about your loved ones. Think about all the gifts that we've been given in this world and so many things we take for granted. And that's how I want to start off every show, with just a moment for us to look around and really dig deep into our souls and find out who we are, and find out all the things that we need to be grateful for and all the things we need to love. I'm thankful for being on this show tonight. So what's Just Love's radio show going to be about? Well, it's been a lifetime in the making. And for the past 5 years, every day, I have posted a new thought about shifting our foundation from one of fear to love. Obviously, we've tried fear for a really long time with the same results over and over and over again. And even if love isn't the answer, which it is, wouldn't it be nice to fail in a whole new way? Aren't we bored with the repetitious nature of the way that human beings have gone about existing? I am. I know it's time for something new. I think a lot of us do. And that's really what this show is going to be about, is bringing people all around the world. People are new to love. People have been doing this their whole lifetime, spreading this message and starting to build this new foundation. We have to have a base to operate from, because if we don't have a new foundation, we're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, and we are doomed to sink again and again and again. And it's time to stop. This is our illusion to make what we want, and it's time for us to make it something new. This is my first radio show ever, so if I'm a little nervous, bear with me. I'm very excited tonight to have my very, very dear friend, Jennifer Hillman, coming on the air, without whom I can say 100% this show would not be happening. I think I'm going to let Jennifer, though, come on and tell her how this all came about and how how she sort of pushed the baby bird out of the nest, if you want, said, "You're on your own. This is your show. You're gonna do it." Because we were supposed to do it together until last Thursday, and I'll bring Jennifer on to let share her how the story unfolded.
Well, first of all, Kip, congratulations. You're doing it, kid. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
We have been talking about doing the show for at least 6 months, if not like a year. And Kip was on my show, Abstract Illusions Radio, not too long ago. And then afterwards, we just said, let's really do this. But all along, I have had this little voice inside me saying, you realize this is Kip's show. This is Kip's show. And it's like, okay, all right. But I kind of set that aside, and we kept planning and talking about it. And then when we finally got down to the nitty-gritty, and I did the website, and I asked him to do something on Google+, and when it came back as Kip Baldwin, Just Love Hangout.
It was not intentional.
I understand that, but the divine is in perfect order here, and that was the final sign to me that it really was just for Kip. It's for him to spread his wings. This has always been your idea from the original concept. So I have been honored and a pleasure, and I've learned so much from you, and I've just really enjoyed the conversation up to this beautiful moment, and I know this is a wonderful show in the making. You have some great guests scheduled, and I know you're just going to fly, and you're just going to get higher and higher. So really an honor to be here and see you fly. It really is. But after, let me finish. After I realized it was his show, I wrote him an email, which basically said, you know what, Kip, I can't do the show. The show is yours. Everything is pointing to me that it's your show. Claim it, own it, and do it. And about an hour or so after I wrote that, Kip called me in a slight panic and said, I'm not doing it without you. And I go, yes, you are. You don't really have a choice.
I really
didn't. Too much
didn't.
energy. It was too far gone. And, I mean, it was interesting even when we were talking about guests. The first guest is Harold Beck, and I contacted him on Facebook and said, hey, I'm going to be doing the show with Kip. And even Harold said, well, if you don't mind, he didn't even say that. He says, I'm just going to deal with Kip about this, okay? And I said, okay. So I let it go because he had already had a connection with Harold. So Harold already knew that it was your show.
Well, it was really funny on the Google Plus thing. I tried to put in Just Love, and I even sent Jennifer a screenshot of it. Google would not accept the name Just Love. It was really bizarre. They said this is an unacceptable name. And I really wasn't going to do the show. And Jennifer was so adamant. I mean, the strength in her response, I said, I'm not doing the show without you. And she said, yes, you are. And I went, I guess I am. And I can't thank her enough for that push, because and the way she went about doing it had to happen that way, because if she'd given me enough time to not do it, I wouldn't have done it. And by knowing me well enough to know that I'm somebody who, if I'm committed to something and I have a responsibility, or I feel obligated to something, I won't let people down. It's just my nature. And, you know, Sherry, I got to thank Sherry so much for waiting for me to come around to that this was also what I needed to do. You know, and having a place for me to do this show. And then for Jennifer just to repeatedly in the past few days, and the resistance, that's come at me from all angles in myself has been really unbelievable. And when I talk about resistance, when we're trying to accomplish something in our lives, so often we'll have voices that come up, or feelings, or illnesses that will come up in our body and in our mind that says, you can't, you're not feeling well, this is why you can't do this. And all weekend long, first it was a mental attack, you can't do this, this is why you shouldn't be doing this. Then Sunday was a physical attack, and I mean, literally, I was physically ill all day Sunday until I actually recorded the song for the show on Monday, and I called Jennifer. I'm like, God, you would not believe what I've been through. But the stronger the resistance, also the closer we are to achieving our goals, and also the stronger the resistance, the greater the goal we're trying to achieve. So, if that's true, and I believe it is, this must be a really important thing I'm doing. And again, I can't thank Jennifer enough for encouraging me and being my friend for the however long we've known each other, the past couple of years or more. And I remember our first conversation. I was driving out to a shoot in Sebastopol, and just from that moment on, we've had a connection, and I've learned so much from her. How to be a better teacher, how to be a better guide. She is just one of the best beings I know. She gets it, and it's really an honor for me to be on this side of the mic, if you will, and I get to interview her and talk to her about what love means to her, how this journey started for her. So without further ado, Jennifer, when did this all start for you? When did you start coming to realization that this world just wasn't functioning properly in fear, and when did this become your life's calling?
Probably from day one, literally. And I always focused on the light and love the best I can. Hypnos, my childhood story is one of a lot of challenges. I came in with a agreement to kind of be reprogrammed in a sense that really wasn't nice. My dad was in the Air Force. He worked for the NSA, so all the stuff with the NSA is like old hat for me. And because he was an officer, it literally says in his contract, you and your dependents volunteer for service. So as a young kid, I was volunteered to do some experiments. And in that experiment, it really made me more submissive. My emotions were killed. So I had this outrageously strong anger to the point that I literally would pick up huge chairs that were bigger than me and throw them against the wall. But otherwise, I did what anybody told me to do. And I finally got a clue that something was off when I decided to get a divorce, and I started having all these memories of what happened as a child, the other life I was living, which was a lot of experiments that wasn't too pretty. If you've ever seen Manchurian Candidate, that's basically what my childhood was like. I don't have that many memories on my own, but I did some regression that brought back the fact that there were 7 levels of false memories of what I felt my life was. So I was literally living a dual life. But during this whole thing, I always focused on the light, on love, appreciating what everybody was doing. I was extremely shy as a kid. But once I got my divorce and I did the regression, and I did what everybody can do, is use universal law to stop it. And I literally said, in all directions of time and space, you no longer have permission to use me for any kind of experiment that's detrimental to me. Hands off. Literally, they stopped using me. I was 38 years old when I finally stopped giving them permission. So, but through the whole thing, and my gifts got stronger once I did that. As a living, I do intuitive life coaching, and I help people find the truth of who and what they are. And I really think my experiences through connecting to an invisible friend that is a physical person, that really has become my best friend. We connected when I was 5 years old. I still know who he is. He knows who I am, but yet physically we've never met. But the telepathic communication is extremely, extremely strong. But that's another reason why the love was there, and it got me through everything I was experiencing as a kid. So it's been a wild and bizarre life, but from it, the love of my parents, who protected me the best they could, my sisters, my friends, my guides in all forms, my teachers, they were always there. I always felt the presence of angels. I always knew the universe was there supporting me. So even though I got huge depression, they were there laughing at me, laughing with me, saying, "You're going to be okay, Jen. This is a temporary situation. Learn from it." And write. And I wrote. I have thousands of papers, thousands of pages, and over 40 journals of me writing and just healing. So it's a huge healing process that we all can do. So right now we're getting programs with the media and with the government, and it's time to stand up and say, we are love, we will focus on the love, and no, you cannot use me anymore. Because that's the power of love, is loving yourself enough to say no.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked about, I know when people hear stories of hardship, especially, and you've really just scratched the surface of your experience. We've shared a lot about the challenges that life has placed before us. And I know you feel that I do, and I think it's something that we as a collective need to embrace as well, is that all these experiences that seem so awful in the moment, and as the show goes on, I'll share more and more about myself, but we've got a whole infinity to get to know each other. I've been through a lot in my life. I've been through things that I could compare to just about anyone else's hardship, no matter what that is, from, addiction to loss to having people murdered in my life. And even now I can sit here and I can say that I'm so glad and I'm so grateful, and again back to the thankfulness of every single one of those experiences I've had, because they've made me that much more grateful for the love that I've found. They've made me grateful for the fact that when I meet other people who are striving and trying to find the light and trying to move beyond what they've been conditioned to be, that I can say I understand and come from a real place of experience. So all these hardships that we're going through in the world, it's okay. Now it's time for us to say, I've learned my lesson, and it's time to embrace love. When you say, Jennifer?
I didn't say anything. You're reading my mind.
I said when you agree that it's time that we looked at the same way that, you and I have talked about looking at life as a collective, that we look at all of the really all the misery and suffering we've really brought upon ourselves, and now look at that as a platform to say, okay, we've done that. It's great we've had that experience, but that's not who we are. We are love. we're not, as you
Right.
said, we're not going to be used by that anymore.
Well, it's interesting because I truly believe that we sign up for certain experiences. We might say, excuse me, why did I sign up for that? But overall, it's to understand that we are loved. I mean, when I was in my head-on collision in 2003, and I went to the other side, the only message I got was, you are loved and loved. Do not forget that. And that's a pretty powerful message to return back in my body and say, okay, that's quite the trip. And feeling that ultimate love and knowing that I can bring that back here and express it through compassion, through my words, through my work, and help people understand the depth of love they truly are. I mean, through all our experiences, I think one thing that both you and I agree on, people want to be acknowledged. They want to be heard.
Absolutely.
And that's something that you and I are both attempting to do with our shows and our work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wish I could, I want to share with people because I can now. I have a voice to reach out to people with. The greatest thrill of all the things I'm doing in my life, there's nothing that brings me more joy and makes me feel more complete than helping people. I mean, and I'm not talking monetarily, just to bring a smile to people and simple gestures, just like Jennifer said, acknowledging people. When you're out and someone does something or they smile and they show you a little kindness, acknowledge that. That starts to reinforce in people that these are good attributes to have. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be a bully. That's not the true source of our power. Our true power comes from love and connecting with one another and helping one another. I've used the term selfish empathy because it truly is. When you start to be truly empathetic with all life, it's a selfish thing because you get so much more out of your own existence. And plus, if you believe that you get to the other side and you have to relive your life through everyone else that you've been in contact with, man, I really want that to be a good experience.
Yeah, no kidding. So, and I was having the same conversation with my guest yesterday, Joy Holland, who that's her whole focus is having people focus on the joy within their lives. And, it's amazing when somebody says thank you to you, it opens your heart and the love comes flooding in and flooding out. Thank you is such a powerful, powerful phrase. And I forgive you. That's another one. Forgiveness is huge.
Could you talk a little bit more about forgiveness? I mean, you have such a tremendous grasp of what forgiveness truly is. I see people all the time, they talk about forgiveness, but I don't think they really understand what it is.
Forgiveness, from my perspective, is being able and willing to really look at the person who you think has hurt you or betrayed you and see how they are a reflection of you in some ways. So when you're forgiving them, you're actually forgiving yourself in the sense of showing compassion to yourself and understanding that everybody has a shadow. They're in your life to show you that part of your shadow. And forgiveness is a way of saying, okay, I understand that's around, and thank you for showing that to me. Forgiveness really opens your heart for more compassion and really understanding that anybody who comes in your life that gives you one of those really hard lessons, they're there to show you how much light you truly are. And if they try and take you down with them to a lower sense of who you really are, you're going to bounce up and expand twice as much once you forgive them. And again, it's all about giving them permission to take you down. That's the main thing.
I love that expression, giving the room for healing. And that's, really what it's about. It's not, you're not forgiving, at least from my perspective, you're not forgiving for the other person. You're forgiving for yourself. And that's where I think a lot of people get confused, is they think, oh, I'm forgiving you, I'm doing you a favor. No, you're doing yourself the favor by forgiving. You're giving yourself room to heal.
And it's interesting. I mean, how many lessons have, I generally used to say I get all my lessons in threes. I stopped saying that so I wouldn't have to have my lessons in threes. But as soon as I learned forgiveness, the lessons come and go much quicker, and so many more areas in my life are opening up because of that.
I think it's a challenge for people to start to move away. We've been so that this is really what we are at all. We are truly spiritual beings having a physical existence, and we say that, and I hear it all the time, but I don't see us really living it out. In other words, starting to place our value in the things that we can't touch and feel, starting to realize that our own, our true power and our true strength comes from not the muscles on our bodies, not how beautiful we are, not the money we have in the bank, not how many cars we have, none of that stuff. It comes from things like forgiveness. It comes from empathy. It comes from love. And for so long, love has been marginalized in much the same way the idea of God has been marginalized. And I'm not talking the religious idea of God, although I have, if that is where you find your comfort, and that is your path, and that is the teachings that touch you, by all means follow that. But always follow whatever you're believing from love, because that's the source of all faith. That is the source of all religion, is love. And I remember as a kid, I remember that I was for a long time, I got really angry at God. I was confirmed as Zion Lutheran. And I remember going to meet with this new minister we had, and he told me that my grandmother, who was a Jehovah's Witness, and these Mormon boys who'd come by my house to teach me about being Mormon, they were all going to hell. And I was so mad at God, because God was love to me. And how could this God that was love, this just didn't make any sense. And for years, I turned away from God. And I think that this idea that, this fear-based concept that we've had of God for so long has done so much damage to both God, to love, to us understanding the true infiniteness of our being. And we are infinite. Make no doubt about it. In every conceivable way, we are infinite. And that infinite part of ourselves is love. And that infinite part of ourselves is the part of ourselves we share with the divine.
Definitely. And it's always there. There's no way you can really cut it off. There's just no way.
One of the things I really want to see us be able to do with this show is I want us to start moving from the purely spiritual realm into a way that people can start to apply these things in their daily life. If you had some tools to give people, what would those tools be? How would you start, say, somebody who is just beginning to awaken, or they're just at their wits' end, they've hit rock bottom? How would you tell them to start their journey, Jen?
First thing is, as you said at the beginning of the show, so counting what you're thankful for. I also suggest journaling. Just write anything and everything that's coming out of you. It's amazing how much healing process gets done just by writing. It's like a releasing in physical form of your angst, your anger, your joys, your misgivings, your regrets. it really does open up the heart, every time you do it. So, you might start out in a really angry place, but I suggest at the end of your writing, you spend at least half a page saying, I'm grateful for the fact that I can feel my anger and identify where it comes from. There is so much within that. The other thing is, if you're really blocked and you don't know why things are happening, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, give me a call. I am an intuitive life coach, and I do that. The other thing you can do is meditate. Meditation will open you up to the divine talking to you directly. And I do assist people in meditation. So, as well, give them tips. But the more you accept that it's okay to be angry, you're having a human experience. There's emotions that go along with it, and not to shut down those emotions quite yet, because it's telling you need to get something out. So you can get to that love.
What, if you could share with us a little bit about how would someone get started in meditation? Because I meditate every day, and I've developed my own practice from a variety of sources. But I think a lot of people get frightened, or they have a misconception of what meditation is, and they think they have to sit in a certain position or say a certain mantra. What's your concept of meditation?
There's a couple of things. Is number one, just focus on your heart and focus on your breath. And for the most part, that gets me going. The other thing that I suggest, if you're first starting out, there are a lot of wonderful guided meditations just to get you started. It will help you focus. But I focus on the breath, because that's connecting to you. And you just focus on the breath. When you start getting the monkey mind, I often say, imagine or vision in your mind's eye a chalkboard that's full of all kinds of scribbles. And then take an eraser and just erase all that garbage on there, so it's nice and black. And say, this is my mind. This is my mind. It's clear. The other thing you can do is, as you're focusing on your breath, is just keep repeating, quiet mind, quiet mind. And it's amazing how the mind will quiet down. And then you can go into open heart. And once you do that, you can say peaceful being. And you will be very centered just by doing those three phrases over and over again.
How would you describe the silence and stillness that we all hear so much about? What is that experience like?
Wow. At times it's out of body. Sometimes it's like feeling a breeze across my face that goes to the very heart of me. It is, I know when I'm in that space, when I get this certain smile on my face and this feeling of just being attached to everything. There is nothing that is not a part of me. It's almost indescribable in a sense. But once you're there, you don't want to leave. It is
no, you don't.
Incredible.
It really is one of a couple meditation practices that I have really helped me, because I used to I can't meditate, I have too many thoughts, and I was one of those people. I went to one of my first yoga classes. I don't even know how many years ago. At the end of the class, everyone laid down and you had your quiet time, and the instructor said, as the images come to your mind, look at them as a reel of film, and don't attach yourself to them. Just let them roll by. That was a really useful technique for me. I don't use it so much anymore, but it's a great way to start not attaching myself to those thoughts, realizing that they're not real, that there's nothing I need to get attached to in the moment, to let them go. And the other thing that one of the other techniques that worked really well was from Judith Blackstone. And like you were talking about, this connection you feel with everything, the way she described this was start by feeling the quality of yourself, your true self. Start with your toes, work all the way up through every inch of your body. Feel your fingers connecting, and you'd start to feel the space in between them connecting. And then realize that your quality of self is the same quality of self that exists in everything around you. And Jennifer's absolutely right. When you get there, you don't want to leave. It's very hard to come back to the physical. But then you start, as you expand your mind more and more, you realize that you can be that observer and not that participant in the illusion if you want. You can make this reality something that is pleasurable, it is your choice to be happy in every moment. I know that sounds really trite, and you've probably heard it a million times, but trust me when I tell you, it's far easier to be happy than you think if you allow yourself to be, because that's really your natural state. Any thoughts on happiness, Jennifer?
Well, I was just thinking, if you're really saying, I don't have a choice, I can't be happy, write down all the reasons why you can't be happy. Because you're going to look and you're going to realize that they're just excuses that really don't hold any water. And then you're going to start laughing. And that's the thing, if you're not happy, there's a few things that I always do. Either watch something really funny that you know you're going to laugh at, or turn on some good rock and roll and move your butt. Dance. That if you are still unhappy once you're dancing, then go get some medicine for depression. I'm only kidding on that. But then there's something really, you need to talk to somebody. If after dancing you're not smiling and you love the music, then you're making a choice just to be depressed. And you need to really look at what you're gaining from not being happy. Because of anything and everything, if you stay in a situation you're not happy in, what's your gain? And if that gain is really not the value of who and what you are, walk away from it. You got that right.
One thing I want to talk to my guests about and get their understanding of, because you know this is something that I experienced on an intensely personal level as a child, and I'll share that story at some point. What does infinity mean to you?
It's almost like the silence and the stillness. It goes on forever, and it's never ending. It's reality. It's love. It's the everything.
For me, once you accept that infinity is endless, boundless, there is no beginning, no end. You can't add or subtract to it. All of our experiences, all of our lives are actually happening simultaneously. We're choosing to put our intention into this particular aspect of our being. We're choosing to see this reality right now, but the fact is that there really isn't any time. There really isn't any space. Everything that is infinity already is. And if you to use an analogy that might help you visualize it, imagine a reel of film in a film canister. Now, when you pick that reel of film up and you would try to look through it, all you'd see is blackness. It's not until you start to unravel it that you start to see the images. And that's the same way infinity is to a certain extent. But for me, one of the greatest gifts of this comprehension of infinity that I had when I was 12 years old was this far off perspective where you could look back in on everything. You could see the universes, you could see the galaxies, you could see the solar system, you could see the flow of everything. And then when you get down to man and you see how we're doing things, you see that we're we're stifling ourselves. We're like a clot in the system. We're not flowing that way. And I think that is where so much of our happiness is coming from, is that we have this really myopic me perspective that isn't allowing us to see how things work at all. It doesn't even allow us to see how our own inventions work. And you take something like as simple as, say, the internal combustion engine. Well, we understand that parts have to work in a certain way for everything to function. You can't just throw all the parts of a car under a hood and say start. It won't work. Yet we don't apply the same logic to our way of being, our civilization. We think we can all act independent of each other. In fact, somebody had posted up on Facebook the other day on something I had wrote about how interdependence is they find there's all particles are connected across infinite space. There's no way that we're not connected. And I think we've lost sight of that connection. And I really believe that if we would step back even a little bit into the infinite and gain some of that perspective, we would see our connection again.
I totally agree. It's like you had your experience with infinity that way. Mine was being 30 years of my life when I was 12, 13 years old. But as I'm looking back at it, there's so many different directions that endless possibilities for the metaphoric terms that were presented to me in how you could take the different lessons I signed up for, because it was endless. Even though it really was in the terms they separated it's about 30 seconds. I was
absolutely.
And I was happy. I mean, I did have, at the end, I had really no material things, except which to me is the book of my life. And the light, the experience. So it's interesting that within different perspectives, you get a whole different view of what life and love and exactly what this experience we're going through, and how all the timelines really are collapsing into this beautiful experience that we're creating moment by moment.
What do you think that the human species has to do to right our ship? Or more importantly, what do we have to be to right our ship? How do we start as a collective to change this illusion from what we are, what it is, to what we say we want it to be, which is peaceful, loving, sustainable? How do we start to divorce ourselves from this reality? How can we start to shift this paradigm? What are some of the practical things that, because so much of this, the fear holds us to our things. Oh my God, how am I going to make a living? How am I going to feed my family? How do we start, as people trying to share the power of love, how do we help people not just think that this is a bunch of spiritual gobbledygook?
Well, it's the more you just open yourself up to the magic. Number one, we need to forgive ourselves for creating the life experience we're having, and understand that we create it, we can change it, and sit down and see what we really want to create with our life. Because even though we are just one, the energy of one really, the ripple effect, and that can change things. So change your story. You've got the power to do it. If you don't like, how you're earning your money, find something you do and trust that you will find the money. If you just get down to the simplest things you need: housing, food, warmth. I mean, basically, you need someone to stay, you need food. Those are the two things that you really need. But even if you're living outdoors, as long as you got some kind of food in you, some clothing to keep you warm, you're going to be okay.
I had a friend of mine say that all you need to get through the day is 2,000 calories.
And some people are doing it on 500 calories, and they're doing okay. Healthy, 1,500, 2,000 is probably better. But that's it. If you can find some way of keeping your body filled, and there are people who actually sun gaze, and they get everything they need just from sun gazing, so they don't even need physical food. As long as you can get some clean water, you're really in a much better state. And fill yourself with love. It's interesting how we get caught up in the material world, because that's really dragged us down. Yeah, it's really nice, all these gadgets we've developed, but in the end of the day, I think a thank you, a hug, a smile, a kiss are worth far more than an iPad, an iPhone. You know, to me, I would rather get a smile from someone than an iPad. That's just me. A deep appreciation for the little things people do, because everybody's here to support me on this journey. It's like me supporting you, like kicking you out of the nest and saying, this is your show, own it, claim it, do it. The gratitude you had for me opened my heart 1,000-fold.
There's a quote by Marianne Williamson that I just love, no matter how many times I read it. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your plain small doesn't serve the world. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people the permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Great quote.
And it just sums up how we're getting it sort of backwards. We live in a world of abundance, but our greed creates scarcity. If we are sharing, we have more. And I think that we're gradually, back to the idea of resistance. I think in that quote as well is the message that, and I know I felt it in myself, it's like, oh my gosh, I can feel that. I can feel that tremendous power. Then you feel that human frailty questioning side of you. Oh my God, what am I going to do with this power? Maybe I'm going to be even worse than what this is. And so we hold ourselves back, not realizing that if we just let go entirely and give ourselves to love, that fear of us doing or being wrong with our power, it won't happen. It will never manifest. In fact, you said it the other day when we were talking, about this very thing, is that if you give yourself entirely to love, I made the joke about a whole new way to fail. You said, we can't fail. You give yourself entirely to love.
No, you really can't. It is the most powerful thing you can do is give yourself to love and know that you are loved, because it's endless. It goes in all directions. It's really hard for someone. I mean, right now the vision in my head is at Kent State when the flower child put the daisy in the gun of the National Guard. I mean, totally shifted the energy by just that simple act of love. giving a flower and saying, let's make it hold a flower instead of killing. Let's give it some beauty. There's some really, a lot of it is amazing. It's just amazing.
So what's next for Jennifer Hillman?
I live in the moment. No. I actually have recently redone several of my websites. By trade, I am a graphic designer, so doing websites, I absolutely love doing them. So I've redone JenniferHillman070914. I've also got Angels Intuition, which is my insights and information on giving you lots of information how to find your authentic self. I deal a lot on their shamanic practices because I think nature is one of our greatest teacher. Mother Earth is, if man wasn't around screwing things up, it'd be very much imbalanced. So I believe in learning from nature. So Jennifer Hillman is a central hub, and it shows you my creative endeavors. I am a writer, and generally when I write, it's more channeling than actually me. I'm not quite sure. It's like my higher self comes through when I write, and it's usually after meditation or during meditation, really. I have Abstract Illusions Radio that is currently on Blog Talk Radio, which Skip has been on several times and has spoken at blogs. So if you want to hear some of the wonderful things, please go check out the archives of that show. It's also on WLOR.net. This originally was my time slot, and I knew that you had a great show, so I said, here, you got a time slot. What's your next excuse? Anyway, so I am changing to the 8 p.m. on Thursday Eastern Time, which is 5 p.m. Pacific Time on Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's starting tomorrow. I will be changing from Blog Talk and just being live on WLOR.net starting in August, I think August 7th. I will go live on WLOR.net. At least at this time, that's the plan. But that could change in any moment. So, but I've got a lot of little things that I'm doing that keep checking on my websites. I'm updating them constantly. And if you would like intuitive reading or coaching, as I did with Kip, I'm great at kicking butt, getting things done. Please check out Angels Intuition. I do have prices there, but I also will go on scale. So I believe in barter, so equal energy exchange. So contact me. Don't let what is before you scare you. Just get in touch. So if you need a reading, coaching, I'm there. I'm also do regression, and I can do it over the phone. I also am a Reiki master, so if you need some energy push, I can contact you on the phone, and I can do long-distance healing. I do a lot of different things. Ask me, I'll probably be able to do it. I've experienced a lot of things, gotten a lot of skills. So if you need a website, a logo, graphic design, part of me is available. So it's a lot of fun to have all the different experiences in my life because I've got a lot of different skills, like you with your producing and your acting and your music. And for people who don't know, Kip did write the opening song. He actually sang it as well. We'll be seeing you on The Voice soon. I just know it. So I used to call myself a dabbler. Now I call myself a Renaissance soul because I like to do a lot of different things, and I'm pretty good at a lot of different things. But for the most part, coaching is my mainstay, that in writing. So, oh, and I also have 2 books of poetry, if I can say that are available on Amazon.
Is there any of your poems that come to mind you could share with us right now?
As a second, I can whip one up. Oh. Essence born again through the truth of death. Hold the reins at bay. Acceptance and allowing the dream lives. With the unspoken, loudly scream. I smile. I cry. I be. I smile. And laugh at the humor of the game's play. So much drama, and what's it for? Ah, the sweet tenderness shared. Now I send magic as I create possibilities into the wisdom and reconnection of being. It was all an ego game, controlling and seemingly wanting control through the limitations and the fear and insecurity of reality, all illusion. And the better man wins, and I dance in the rain, in the splendor of the celebration, in the warmth of the sun, waves of gratitude for the friendship step, respects the inner knowing it, for the unknown born again.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
As we're getting down to the last few moments here, first of all, I want to thank Jennifer again for everything that she did to encourage me to do this, Sherry for having the show. I want to thank Marilyn Hillman, my partner and fiance, for always being here to support me and what my the problems out there, and you're going, no, corporations, governments, blah, 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 blah. We have the numbers, overwhelming numbers, to affect real change if we want. But that real change has to come with you. You have to start by loving you. It all starts with loving you. And once you start to love you, you can love others. And once we start loving others, everything changes. We start realizing what's really important, not the things we're doing, but what we're being, how we're being in this world, how we touch each other's lives. This is how we can affect real change. This is how the world can look different. There isn't scarcity. There is abundance. There is no need for war. War has never solved a single problem ever. All it does is make for good business at this point, because there's no real purpose for it. All these paradigms that we've created around ourselves that we think we can't live without are actually killing us. And we have not only the power to change everything right now, there's a need. Unlike all the collapses that have come before to human civilization, what's different this time is just the sheer numbers of people and the amount of damage that we've caused. And it nothing that can't be undone. And there's no need to look back and point fingers and say who's to blame. We all have enough mud and blood on our hands. It's time for us to look forward and start seeking solutions. But all of those solutions have to start and stop with love. And that's what we're going to be talking about here every Wednesday until we reach a critical mass and until we see this world change and become what it can be, what we can be. Or I die trying, one or two. Anyway, it's going to be a fun journey, and I appreciate all of you joining me here on the first show and bearing with me as I'm getting my radio legs underneath me, or radio ears on my head, and radio voice out to space. Every week we're going to have wonderful guests on. Next week I have Harold Becker from the Love Foundation coming on, who started Global Love Day. In the coming weeks, I'll have Parisa Soltani on to talk about One Through Love, which is a Rumi organization. I'll also have Stephen Olson, who is Parisa's partner and an amazing documentary filmmaker, has traveled the world in some of the most dangerous, heart-wrenching environments that you can possibly imagine, to talk about the power of love he's seen in situations that we can't even possibly think about. But mostly I want us all to come away from this show every week to feel encouraged and empowered that we can change the world. It doesn't have to be like this, that love really will change everything. We just have to believe, and we have to be. and have a wonderful night. Just love to all.